Welcome to the Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce 2012 Candidate Forum. I'm Dave Kaiser, the Chamber's Secretary, proud to be the moderator for today's program. Today's program will be split into a few portions. In fact, three. We have some candidates that have some time schedules and need to move on this afternoon. So we'll begin with our legislative forum, but before that, with Dan Rogan, who is unopposed for Ward 2 City Council in the city of Robbinsdale. And Dan wanted to come and give a 2-minute opening statement, which we said, yes, please do that. But he's going to yield the time later on in the city forum to the other candidates who are opposed. So Dan, if you would, please.
Great. Thanks, Dave, and thanks everybody for being here. As Dave said, I'm running for re-election, and I have been on the council for 8 years and get to run unopposed this year, which is a joy for me because it makes my door knocking easy, because most people indicate after I tell them that I'm unopposed that they plan on voting for me. So I feel pretty good about my chances. I just wanted to just take a couple of minutes to talk about the Chamber and about Robbinsdale. And first, I really wanted to thank the Chamber. I think one of the things that I think is really important in Robbinsdale is the close working relationship that the city and the citizens have with the business owners in Robbinsdale. I think it's one of the amazing things that kind of goes unheralded is a forum like this, or the meet and greet that we had just a couple of months ago, and to see all the people out and to see the business owners out there who really care, obviously, about their businesses, but really care passionately about Robbinsdale. And it makes being on the city council a real joy to know that we have a really strong partnership with the Chamber, and that when we're looking at ways to improve the city, we know that we have a real strong partnership with many of the businesses. And at the city level, we try to make sure that we're a business-friendly environment, that we're looking at ways to make sure that our downtown is a place where businesses want to come and want to locate. And I think, if you look in the past 4 or 5 years, we've been relatively successful, and not really through the city. I mean, I think we've made it an environment where businesses and people with good ideas can come and be successful. And so I really wanted to just come here and thank all of you for all the hard work that you do and for your activity in the Chamber. And I will reserve the rest of the time for everybody else who actually has opponents. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. If there are questions from the audience, there are cards at your tables and pens. If you would write them on the cards, and we have a few Chamber representatives that will pick those up for you and bring them forward. We will try to ask as many of the questions as possible, but we are limited on time. Certainly want to get you back to the office or your organization, so we will keep that in mind. At this point, we'll continue with our legislative races for the city of Robbinsdale. And with me, we have the candidates for State Senate District 45 and State Representative District 45B. And at this time, we will go right down the row, starting with Mike, and have each candidate give their 2-minute opening statement. Mike?
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to the Robbinsdale Chamber. It's great to be here today. My name is Mike Freiberg, and I'm running to represent Crystal, Golden Valley, New Hope, and Robbinsdale in the Minnesota House of Representatives. I grew up in our community, and I'm dedicated to it. My wife and I live in Golden Valley in the Robbinsdale School District. And in my day job, I work as an attorney for a nonprofit organization committed to improving public health. I've also served on the Golden Valley City Council since 2004 and helped the city achieve a AAA bond rating, adopt a domestic partnership registry, and protect city services during tough budget times. The City Council is a nonpartisan office, but I've worked with people who identify privately as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents to get these things done. Now, Lauren and I had a son on Saturday, 3 days ago, so if I seem a little tired or spaced out, I haven't had much sleep the last few days. His name's Joseph. He was a big guy, 9 pounds, 10 ounces. And I also have a daughter named Rose who'll be 3 years old on the 5th. Now, I want Minnesota to be a state my children can be proud of, where they can reach their fullest potential. Although District 45 has had great legislators, their work has been hampered in the last 2 years by a legislature with the wrong priorities. Rather than focusing on what is important to Minnesota, the legislature has adopted divisive constitutional amendments, shut down state government, and borrowed money from our schools to balance the budget. If elected, my first priority would be helping out our schools and increasing investment in education, because I think if you have a strong education system, you have a strong economy and a strong business climate. Now, since I entered this campaign, I've been working hard to earn your vote. I've knocked on thousands of doors and met thousands of residents. I hope that after you've had a chance to hear from me during this debate, you'll consider supporting me on November 6th. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mike. Applause is okay at portions of. Next is Reed Johnson. Reed, your opening statement.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks to Robbinsdale Chamber for having us here, inviting us to be able to share a little bit more about ourselves. And first of all, let's explain a little bit about myself and where I came from. Born in Eden Prairie, moved up here 23 years ago when I got married to my wife, Chris. We have 2 sons, Noah and Joshua, and we've lived in 281 school district for the last 23 years. And so some of the things I've done here, I've been involved with City of Crystal, the EDA advisor for 3 years, been in the Golden Valley Rotary for many years. I've worked in the Strive program at Armstrong High School as well, working with kids that need help, that we spend time in trying to help them to graduate and offer money for them as well if they participate well and increase their grades. All of 12 years I spent as a volunteer youth pastor, been many years as a church council, also have coached many years at this area and also in Plymouth on soccer and basketball at the city level, and I also coached a couple years in college as well. And so that's a little bit about community stuff that I'm involved with. Currently I'm a chief engineer at a hotel in Bloomington. Done that for the last few years, and another hotel 3 years downtown Minneapolis as well as a chief engineer. I used to be in business for my own in remodeling, and also that for a number of years. And before that, I worked 5 years with another company in the computer industry. We own a partnership in that, and we dealt with products and services for small to medium-sized companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reed. Our next candidate for State Senate is Ann Rest. Ann?
Thank you, Dave. I am State Senator Ann Rest. I was elected to the Minnesota House in 1984 for the first time, and I've served in the Minnesota Senate since 2001. I serve on the Tax, Commerce, and Transportation Committees. I sit on the Legislative Audit Commission, the Great Lakes Commission, and the Capital Preservation Commission. I'm a retired tax accountant and a former English teacher in the Robbinsdale schools at Armstrong High School. Our community has been my home since 1970. I serve my church and its ministry programs, and I volunteer in our schools. My family has hosted AFS and Rotary exchange students over the years. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, the Crystal New Hope Robbinsdale Rotary Club, and the Twin West Chamber. I'm pleased to have the endorsement of the Twin West Chamber and the Minnesota Chamber, as well as a number of labor and environmental groups. My work in the legislature has included tax reform and relief, increased funding for public schools, restrictions on youth access to tobacco, and consumer protection legislation. In 2010, I led a bipartisan group of legislators in significant election and campaign finance reforms. I relish my work as chair of the nonpartisan Great Lakes Legislative Caucus and our efforts to protect and preserve the Great Lakes, especially Lake Superior. I appreciate the opportunity to be visiting with you today. I enjoy the city of Robbinsdale and all that it offers to our regional community. So thank you very much for hosting this today, and come November 6th, I hope I'll have your vote.
Thank you, Ann, and our final opening statement from Blair Tremere.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to the Chamber for conducting this forum. I am Blair Tremere, the Republican candidate for the District 45 State Senate seat. My candidacy was stimulated primarily by the desire to serve and to provide the voters with a choice. I'm willing and able to provide voters with a credible choice for change. My commitment will be to serve in the accountable and positive fashion that citizens expect. I'm qualified to be the next senator. My wife Linda and I have resided in Golden Valley since 1977. I'm retired from a professional public administration career, primarily in local government. I served as mayor and as council member. I started and own a consulting practice, and I now serve on the boards of local organizations that promote and support volunteer activities. That experience and my interest in civic affairs will serve as a source of new perspectives that will contribute to an effective legislature which citizens can trust and have confidence. Today, we face significant changes in our personal lives and in the way we govern ourselves. The state will continue to face major challenges, often resulting from external economic and political events, but it is the way that legislators have let us down by failing to address critical problems that concerns the voters in 2012, I believe. Old policies and perpetual entitlement programs that promote wasteful spending and greater taxation need to be thoroughly evaluated and, if not eliminated, prioritized in terms of today's needs and resources. The legislature needs to be more accountable. You expect and deserve performance. I will take to the Senate both a commitment to ensure we get the core services that meet our needs at the best value and the expertise to help develop legislation that will ensure the state operates within its means. Your vote for Blair Tremere on November 6th will count toward restoring trust and confidence in your government. I'm the choice for change. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. And at this point, again, I'll remind the audience, if you have questions, you can go ahead and write those down on the cards, and we'll have some representatives from the chamber stop by and pick those up. At this point, we'll have questions for our guests, and we'll have 1 minute to respond. We'll start with Reed Johnson. The question is, in your opinion, what is the largest issue facing the state of Minnesota, and what will you do to solve it?
Steve, that's a tough question because there's a lot of issues. It's not just one. I guess a couple of the areas I would say as jobs, as we've actually been doing a pretty good job compared to the rest of the country in jobs. We're not as good as other states around us, North and South Dakota, and et cetera, in Texas. But we've made steps in the right direction the last couple of years, and so we'd like to continue with that. So make it more easier for businesses and make our state more attractive to outside businesses or businesses from around the world as well. I think we're ranked, even though we're doing fairly well, we're ranked 45th, I believe, in terms of a state-friendly business environment here compared to all the rest of the states. So that's something we need to work on, lower our corporate tax rate and stuff like that. Otherwise, spending is a huge issue as well. I think we really need to get a handle on our spending, which would create more revenue as well. So better idea of oversighting a lot of our agencies out there that don't seem to have good audit trails over them, so that there's a lot of mismanagement of money I feel out there. So, and obviously education is another key thing for me as well to really increase the standards we are at. We've dropped over the years. We used to be #1 in the world back in the 70s. And our place now, we're in 21st and 28th, I think, in math and science compared to other developed countries. So definitely want to do things that help the education in this state to have kids more prepared for jobs that are needed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed. And again, I'll ask the candidates to speak up. They're having a little trouble hearing in the back of the room, so we'll do our best for you back there. Same question, and rest, please.
The major responsibility for the legislature in 2013 is going to be passing the biennial budget. That will be the #1 challenge for us. We are facing a multi-billion-dollar deficit yet once again, although we have seen an improved economy over the past 12, 18 months. Nevertheless, we do need to look at how we are going to be fiscally responsible in handling that deficit. I believe that our first priority should be to pay back the dollars that were borrowed from the school districts in order to solve the budget crisis for 2011 and 2012. I believe that was a misguided action by the legislature and the governor, and I think it is our responsibility as quickly as possible to pay it back. So that's what I will work hardest on, to deal with getting to a balanced budget and then making sure within that balanced budget that we provide for paying back our school districts.
Thank you, Ann. Blair Tremere.
I believe that the largest problem, if that's the correct term, the largest problem for the legislature is essentially the same one that faces Congress, and that is restoring the trust and confidence in the American people, and in this case, Minnesota citizens in their government, namely that it can do the job that it's supposed to do, and that is represent the people and come together. We're too tied up in gridlock and strategic issues, partisan strategic issues, and at the end of the day, we're not getting the job done. And I think that's the most important single issue. The budget clearly is an important tool, and the budget reflects the priorities that the legislature comes together and agrees upon and funds those priorities. I take issue a little bit on the perception of the so-called shift to the education funding. I don't agree with that technique, but it is a technique. It's a financing technique. And I know there's a number of local officials in the room. I was one once too. But I think the strong revelation for all local officials is you're all creatures of the state. The state is the sovereign, and the state legislature's got to pick up itself and do the job it's elected to do. And if that means shifting funds or changing priorities, whatever, it should do it. I think it's so bogged down in petty politics, partisan politics, and that's our system. It's a two-party system, but we're not coming together and getting the job done. So I think economics is driving the bus on a lot of issues. Budget is, like I said, a clear reflection of the priorities. But first and foremost, the legislature has got to figure out how to get together and do its job right.
Thank you, Blair. And Mike Freiberg.
I think ensuring that we have a strong education system is the most important issue facing the state. A big reason I got into this was because of the school shift. I just felt like it sends a terrible message to Minnesota residents that we would borrow money from our kids, basically, to fix budget problems that were created in many cases, by legislators who were unwilling to compromise. And it costs school districts money too. Schools, to make up the gap during the period where the funding's been shifted, they may have to borrow and incur interest costs to do that. So I think it's a real issue. Since I've begun this campaign, I have spoken to several people involved with the school, with the Robbinsdale School District, who feel that addressing the school funding formula is actually probably more critical for this district, just because it hasn't kept up with inflation. It's lost about the equivalent of $1,000 in the last decade. So I'm certainly open to that idea too. But basically, I think we need to ensure, the state constitution guarantees a uniform system of public education, and I think the legislature needs to meet that constitutional obligation.
Thank you. Again, if there are questions from the audience, hold those cards up, and some of the representatives from the chamber will pick those up. Next question, we'll start with Ann Rest. What issue did you hear about most when you were campaigning, and how did you respond to that issue when asked by residents?
During the last month or so, the issues that I heard most about were the two constitutional amendments. The one that will limit the freedom to marry, in my opinion, and also the one that would require a photo ID. People to vote. People are very concerned, whether they're for or against those amendments, about how or the substance of the amendments, about how we're using the Constitution. And that the Constitution, people are very concerned that we not turn the Constitution into a referendum on social issues, or and that we do not turn the Constitution into a document that, instead of expanding the rights of voters, that it's going to start limiting the rights of voting. Voting is a right. Most of us think, because of the country we live in, that it's a privilege and that it's an obligation. But first and foremost, through 3 or 4 of the amendments to the U.S. Constitution, it is a right, and we need to respect that. It's not like cashing a check. Nobody has to cash your check, no matter how many IDs you have. You have no rights with regard to cashing a check. But if you're a citizen and you're eligible, you have a right to vote. And I heard about those two constitutional amendments in the last month over and over and over again.
Thank you, Ann. Blair Tremere.
The issue that I believe I could say now I've heard the most about, and there's a broad range of issues, some of which were just touched on by Senator Rest. I'd say by far the one I've detected the most, and let me say this as a preface, you learn a lot as a candidate knocking on doors, whether it's local office or state legislative office, just standing on a person's stoop, and in the minute before they come to the door and answer, just looking around at the eaves and the house and the yard, it tells you a lot about the environment that you're in and about the welfare and the well-being of the people that are living in that house. And when they come to the door, I think the strongest message I heard is people are having a tough time. And it's all over the board. It's employment or lack of it, and it's also what's been happening with the real estate values, and they don't understand it. And therefore, the biggest issue I've heard is the legislature has not done an admirable job of even educating the public in the truth about why things are the way they are. They do not do a good job of explaining how the tax system works. They do not pursue meaningful reform that would make sense to people and explain to them how, on the one hand, your values go down, but your taxes go up. And I think probably the biggest thing that they saw this last session was that with all the alleged problems with budget deficits and everything else, miraculously, in the last couple weeks, in the stealth of night, the legislature saw fit to put Ziggy Wolf in the black for years to come and enhance the value of the Minnesota Vikings by finding the financing for a new stadium. People were incredulous, and that's what I've run into, is just the incredulity with the legislature's lack of performance, except in those specific areas where, for whatever reason, they've decided to act and perform. And I think people feel let down.
Thank you, Blair. Mike Freiberg.
I agree with what Reed said at the outset, just that there are lots of issues out there, facing the state. And depending on who you talk to, you might hear about property taxes. You might have certainly heard about the stadium. But generally, I would probably, if I had to pick one that I'm hearing the most, I would probably agree with Senator Rest that it is the amendments, and specifically, I would say the marriage amendment. And I don't think that's a coincidence in this district. The UCLA Law School looked at census data and examined the rate of GLBT households in every city in every state in the country. And in Minnesota, the city with the highest GLBT household per capita number is Golden Valley. Crystal and Robbinsdale were something like number 6 and number 9. So there are a lot of GLBT residents in District 45B who are very concerned about this amendment. Certainly there are people who support it as well, and I respect their positions. But my position is in line with what I would say a majority of the residents of District 45B. I don't support the amendment. I'm voting no. I don't think the state constitution should be used to restrict people's rights. And I think the Robbinsdale Chamber should be concerned about it too, because I think it sends a bad message when businesses are trying to recruit talent to this state from other states. There are a lot of people in same-sex relationships, and they want their relationship to be recognized as much as anybody's. I love my wife. I was lucky enough to be able to marry her, and I don't know why anybody else shouldn't have that right. I don't think it's a coincidence that companies like General Mills have taken a position opposed to the marriage amendment.
Thank you. And Reed Johnson.
Well, I think after many months of being out there hitting the trail and talking to a lot of people, like they've all said, it's been a variety of things, from the amendments across to education and economy. But one of the areas I saw a lot about was actually bipartisanship. They felt that not enough was getting done at the Capitol, whether it's from I think there is stuff that does get done at the Capitol. I have a number of people I stay in contact with down there, and I go down there and listen myself to the sessions. But, the media portrays somewhat that nothing's happening there. So a lot of the people believe that we're getting nowhere. There's a lot of gridlock. That is true. There is a lot of gridlock. I don't think it's quite as bad as people see, but I hear and see. But But that's what I heard a lot of. And one of the things I'm committed to is bipartisanship, which means in a different way, I'm not there to, I don't want to compromise with someone on the other side, whether it be independent or a Democrat. What my vision is to have true bipartisanship. And that would mean this. If it's a Republican, a Democrat, or independent legislation, and it's a good piece of legislation, I'm going to vote for it. I don't care what party you're with. If it's a bad piece of legislation and it's on my party, tough luck. I'm going to not vote for it. I'm only voting for things that's going to be most effective in helping the general people in the state and in this district. So I'm not going to utilize the ability to sit there and say, well, I'm my party or this thing, and I'm not going to go for it because I'm told not to. Yes, I want to support my party. Yes, I do what I can with my party. They stay on the platform. If they're off the platform and come up with some wacky ideas, which I hope they won't, then I'm not going to jump on board automatically just because it's my party. And vice versa. If there's a good piece of legislation on the other side, I will join in that and support that. Because it's all about you. I'm not looking to be re-elected. If I get elected the first time, great. If I don't because I did the right thing and I get kicked off because I did the right thing, well, then so be it. And education finally is important. I hear a lot of that, and I started a group called PTAC, Parent Teacher Action Coalition. And so that's a group that we're working with teachers. Also I talked to city council as well. They're going to try to work with me on that, and parents to try to come up with creative ideas to improve the education in this district.
Thank you. Again, we are on a time schedule today, so to be respectful of time, we'll do our best here. And I know it's an impossible thing to ask, but 30 seconds for the answers, and we can maybe sneak in 2 more questions. I know, it's funny because as I look at this question, good luck.
Thank you.
Let's give this a try. The cities in your district have competing interests in Minnesota's fiscal disparities law. What would the fiscal disparities law look like if you could make it the way you want it? And we'll start with Blair Tremere.
Thank you. In 30 seconds.
I'm sorry.
No, it's an old program. I remember when it was initiated. I'm old too, I guess. But I would say it's time to reevaluate fiscal disparities as well as local government aid. The so-called Minnesota Miracle components are old. They're worn out. They've been abused statewide. And that leads to some of the problems we have. In this district, we have a couple cities just in this district that don't get local government aid at all, and we got some that do get it. We got some that are givers to the fiscal disparities and others that are getters. And that's not right. What we need to do, the legislature needs to do, is put it all on the table again and see what the problems in 2012 are, not 1970.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm on the city council in Golden Valley. Golden Valley is a net contributor to fiscal disparities because we have some very large employers there like Honeywell and General Mills. But I recognize that's only about a third of the district I'm running in, and cities like Robbinsdale and Crystal rely on that program for their funding, and I think they should continue to. I mean, I recognize the district I'm running in, and I would not do anything to jeopardize the cities in the district. I do think there are some provisions in the fiscal disparities program that could be improved. For example, it's based on the property valuation, but many of the large commercial businesses, this is going to take longer than 30 seconds, I shouldn't even have gotten into it. Many of the large commercial businesses their rate is determined, but then they challenge their valuation, and oftentimes it goes down, but the city is still paying that initial valuation. So I think things like that could be improved, but generally I would not do anything to jeopardize the position of the cities in the district if I am lucky enough to be elected, and because it is very important. I've spoken with city council members from Robbinsdale and Crystal and told them my commitment to it.
Thank you. Reed?
Well, if I'm correct on this, I believe Ann Rest here brought a piece of legislation to reevaluate that. And so I agree with her, actually. So I think we need to be reevaluated, kind of like Blair said as well. So I'll keep it short. I'm on board with their ideas over there, so that's all I'll need to say.
Thank you. Ann?
Maybe I'll just say ditto, I have been working on the metropolitan tax-based sharing policies ever since I've been in the legislature, because I do believe they need reevaluation. There are any number of minor things that we could adopt to make what I think it should be more equal, more fair. We do want to recognize that there are some communities that are very, very fortunate in having a huge commercial industrial tax base, and that it's not necessarily from their own policies. It is location, for one thing. 394 corridor. Golden Valley is and St. Louis Park, very, very fortunate to have that kind of tax base, as opposed to communities that would welcome commercial industrial development, but nevertheless have a much greater percentage of residential property, and therefore a less of a tax base. So I think we need to just keep working on that, and really appealing to a sense of fairness about the mission of that program, and really to be looking at how much of that tax base do we want to be shared, and do we have a good formula now for distributing the tax base after it's been gathered in. And I am a very strong supporter of constantly reevaluating that program.
Final question, and again, I know there are a number of questions handed in. Hopefully the candidates can stay around for a few minutes. I will pass the cards down the row here so they can look at some of the questions, because I think it's important that they know what the residents and the chamber is asking. Final question, we'll start with Mike. Do you support using transportation dollars on improving highways, or do you support additional light rail and bus rapid transit?
Those don't sound mutually exclusive. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
We'll give it a try, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't write the question,
Sure.
but I think it's getting to the point. Do you support using transportation dollars on improving highways, or do you support additional light rail and bus rapid transit?
Okay,
There may be an answer in the middle, yes.
Yeah, no, I support a variety of transportation options. I think highways are certainly important. You know, the state constitution was amended a few years ago so that the motor vehicle sales tax, the gas tax, goes towards transportation, but it said highways and light rail was included in there too. And I support the Bottineau corridor that would benefit Robbinsdale. I think it would benefit Golden Valley as well. So, you know, there are some concerns about location of the line, but I've supported the alignment that's been proposed of the Bottineau corridor, and have supported moving it forward. So I support a variety of transportation options.
Thank you. Reed?
Yes, I believe we should spend the money on the normal transportation mode, highways, bridges, etc., away from light rail. I would be against the light rail going through Bottineau line. There's some issues with that. I know a lot of people in Golden Valley particularly have frustrated with where it would go. So I'm against that. I think we should privatize a little bit more of the busing. I like the busing idea. I believe it's Southwest Transit down in, I'm not sure where the hub is, about in southwest corner there. They are profitable. And there's a couple other suburban type of bus systems out there that do a really good job of doing transportation. I think leaving it to some of the private industries to do that, it would be more effective, because they've done a good job already. And just to correct something, I think I made a mistake earlier on that group. I was PTAC. I said city council was actually school board member. I won't say who it was, but they're willing to work together with us. I just didn't want to give the wrong information out.
Thank you. Ann Rest?
Well, I support a multimodal approach to transportation throughout the state. I believe, as we know, the gas tax is constitutionally dedicated to roads and bridges and what we call transportation. However, we did pass, as Mike said, an amendment to the Constitution to allow the sales tax on motor vehicles to also be used for transit initiatives, including light rail. But keep in mind that the light rail projects, just like a number of our interstate projects, are funded sometimes 80%, sometimes 90% by federal dollars. Now you might say, well, there's still taxpayer dollars. Right, but Minnesota should get its fair share of those dollars coming back into our communities. I've been a strong supporter of light rail. I believe that we need to move forward on the Southwest Corridor, and I also support Bottineau. The primary goal of a major metropolitan area's transportation system should be getting people where they want to go as quickly as possible and reducing congestion in the service of that goal. So I think we don't need just one kind of system. We need a number of systems to meet the needs of our constituents.
Thank you. Blair Tremere?
Let me say very briefly first, because I appreciate the audience and where we're at. I will tell you that the botno issue you've been hearing about, particularly as it pertains to my fair city of Golden Valley and its decision, which I support, has more to do with the alignment of the train line and not whether there should be light rail transit. Now, having said that, let me go up in my little helicopter to 10,000 feet like a legislator should. Senator Rest is correct. Education and transportation are two of the key specific issues our Constitution addresses. And if we're going to broaden how the revenues brought in by gasoline tax and fuel taxes and so on come in, then there we might be dealing with a constitutional amendment that's a bona fide amendment to what's already in the Constitution. And as has been addressed, it's been touched on a little bit, taking parts of the motor vehicle sales tax and putting it in and earmarking it, so to speak. But it needs a broader reform if truly we're going to try to fund everything everybody wants. I'm a planner by background, and I can tell you that at the end of the day, what we're experiencing with light rail activity, frenetic as it is being driven more by the chase for federal dollars than it is by good planning and the true elimination of things like congestion and so on. If you look where the lines are, the population served is minimal considering the breadth of our area. We are not Portland, Oregon, and we are not Denver, Colorado, which have natural constraints that dictate a lot of their needs. We are a broad-based, prairie-based city or metropolitan area. And the last thing that the legislature should deal with that I think would improve things in terms of the planning is the Metropolitan Council is unelected and they're making billion-dollar decisions on how that money gets spent. That needs to be corrected. And the legislature ducks the issue for lack of political will.
Thank you. At this point, we will start with the closing statements. Candidates, you'll have 1 minute or less if you so choose, and we'll start with Blair Tremere.
Thank you. I actually have got it down on paper so I fit within Dave's time constraint, and I'm sorry I didn't have it right out in front of me. I've dedicated most of my adult life to providing quality public service. I've observed and shared the dissatisfaction citizens have about increased spending, mounting public debt, and the inability of the legislature to perform its job. Citizens in 2012 expect and deserve accountable, decisive, and prudent policy making. I've talked with many residents since June who feel we have been let down. The state Senate needs a new member who will advocate full review of policies and spending and who will act to assure the state lives within its means. I will work hard for you to put Minnesotans back to work by creating opportunities, to make our good schools even better by addressing today's needs, and to stop wasteful spending by promoting smaller and effective government. I'm qualified to serve as that new member. I will champion citizen interest to restore trust and confidence in our government. You can learn more at BLAIRTremere.com. Please invest in a new voice. Vote for Blair Tremere on November 6th. Thank you very much, and thank you again to the Chamber.
Thank you, Blair. Ann Rest.
I also want to thank the Chamber for sponsoring this event, and this is the last of the candidate forums that I have enjoyed being at with my opponent Blair Tremere, and I'd like to just take my final moment here to thank him for the thoughtful way in which he has approached the issues. We've had very good discussions among ourselves, even outside of these forums, and I just want to compliment him on that. And but nevertheless, I would like for you to vote for me. But thank you very much, and I welcome your support on November 6th.
Thank you, Ann. Reed Johnson.
Yes, well, I'd like to thank the Chamber as well for putting this time together for us to get a little more feedback from you guys where you're interested and us to answer back. Basically, one of the things I would like to do is, for example, number of people I know who own businesses across the state and locally here, and really work in a more effective way with them to ask them what would work. And so, like, for example, one person I know, Atrix International, they manufacture stuff here locally, but they do 30% of their businesses is exported. Let's work harder on getting businesses that are here, not only manufacturing the products together and having the staff and employment here, but also exporting. So companies like that is spending more time with them and seeing what ways that we can do to help them grow their jobs so that we can help our economy here. So, but to finish up a little bit about myself, just wanted to let you know that if I'm so elected, I would focus on a job-friendly environment by reducing taxes and getting rid of a lot of the roadblocks by streamlining government. I would oppose all efforts of the government to act beyond its constitutional authority. I will support efforts to reduce or eliminate redundant and ineffective programs, and will push for single-issue legislation, which will cut spending and unnecessary programs and will effectively needed services. And finally, I'll work in an effective bipartisan fashion to create real solutions to the problems facing Minnesota, not in a sustainable manner. And I will represent you, not special interest groups. And so you can look for more information on me on my website. That's reedjohnsonforhouse.com. And I ask for your vote November 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reed. Mike Freiberg.
I've lived in our community since I was 6 weeks old, and I've dedicated my life to public service. I have a growing family, and it's never been more important to me to work for a better Minnesota. I have a clear record of results in working with people of all parties, and I hope you'll consider supporting me. I have a positive vision for our district. I want to pay back our schools, invest in early childhood education, reduce the property tax burden on the middle class, and grow good jobs. I hope you'll consider voting for Mike Freiberg on November 6th, and thank you, Dave. Thank you to the Chamber for putting on an informative forum.
Thank you, Mike. Please join me in thanking these state candidates for joining us today. And we will be right back with the city candidates. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the 2012 Robbinsdale Chamber of Commerce Candidate Forum. At this point, we have our city candidates with us, minus Dan Rogan, again, who you saw earlier is opposed in Ward 2. We have the candidates that are opposed with us at this point. And same format as before, we'll have a 2-minute opening statement, some questions, and then a 1-minute closing statement. We'll begin with our opening statements right down the row. We'll begin with Regan Murphy. Regan?
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. It's wonderful to see so many attending. Thank you to the Robbinsdale Chamber for inviting me to the event, and thank you to the Legion for hosting. I'm Regan Murphy. I'm running for Robbinsdale mayor. I was born and raised here in Robbinsdale, and I currently live in my old neighborhood with my wife and our 3 children. We moved back in 2005. I went to grade school here. I went to Robbinsdale Cooper High School, and I earned a bachelor's degree at the University of Minnesota. I came back again in 2005. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to give back. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time in Robbinsdale for a new, fresh perspective, some new energy on city council. That's why I'm running for mayor. When I moved back in 2005, I got involved with the Park and Rec Commission and currently serve on the Planning Commission. And I'm a founding member and the current chair of the Heart of Robbinsdale Community Foundation, and among other civic engagements. But that clearly illustrates my experience and certainly my dedication to Robbinsdale. And I look forward to doing new things here in Robbinsdale. That being said, I'm honored to be here today, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you. George Selman.
Good afternoon, everyone. George Selman, candidate for mayor of Robbinsdale. I think back as I was preparing for my comments today, 6 years ago I sat here and I opened with something that, a simple statement that I still believe today. I love Robbinsdale. I love Robbinsdale. Some people say to a fault, but I am passionate about taking care of this city. I moved here in 1978 when my wife Marilee and I got married, and have enjoyed living in one home for 23 years, and we built a new home 11 years ago. Our dream home, we built it right here in Robbinsdale. We can't imagine living anywhere else. That's largely driven by the fact that our daughters and their husbands own homes here in Robbinsdale, and our 4 grandchildren live here. So we love this city as a family, as much as a family can. I want to thank the Chamber and all of you for being here, and the people watching at home for being informed voters and making an informed selection. I currently serve on the City Council of Robbinsdale representing the 3rd Ward. I'm in the middle of my 2nd term, which puts me on the council for almost 6 years. There's still a lot of work I'd like to do from the time that I came to the council. It's been awe-inspiring to me to see how our city council has a passion for this city and a work ethic for this city as a group, and working with the staff, with the businesses in Robbinsdale to see the resulting efforts, the downtown that's vital and alive, and new businesses coming in, working with the businesses that are here to make sure they stay. I believe in it so much, I'm opening a business in Robbinsdale with my business partner, and we're opening right after the election, because I have nothing else to do as I'm semi-retired, I guess. But it's the service to the community that I've had over the past 25 years is really what's prepared me to be your next mayor. Going back to the 80s when I was a Robbinsdale JC and seeing how service to the community can really make a difference to the citizens of Robbinsdale. Really, that JC experience taught me community service at a level that I had never really understood. And now, being a member of the Lions Club, working with Regan on the Heart of Robbinsdale Community Foundation as also a founding member and its current treasurer, working on different commissions over the years, working regionally for Commissioner Opat to help for the last 11 years on the Bottineau Corridor, and even things that are maybe a little bit smaller but probably more important, the rededication of the Victory Memorial Drive. I spent a year on that planning committee serving on that, and it's that ability to work with the regional neighbors as well as the citizens in Robbinsdale, which leads me to believe I'll be your best choice for mayor. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, George. Candidates for Ward 1, Bill Blonigan.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you everybody for coming here, and whoever might be watching, thank you very much. I'm Bill Blonigan, and I'm running for Ward 1 council member in Robbinsdale, where I've had the honor and the pleasure to represent you for 32 years. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of our community. If you look at my literature, you'll see what some of the most important things to me are. You'll see that I'm proud of the fact that we are operating in a very tight fiscal situation, and we're sort of leading the league, if you look on the back page, in tax rates. We don't have as much tax base as some other cities, and yet we work hard for you, trying to find little gems that can control your taxes downtown and elsewhere. I'm a very big advocate of supporting your business community. I think you, the present generation of business owners in Robbinsdale, are very positive as compared to what it was like 32 years ago when I came here. I now hear probably about 9 positive comments about Robbinsdale and the downtown for every negative comment I hear. If you will help me get reelected, I can promise you that I will continue to examine the budget. I've spent literally thousands of hours, not years yet, because even though I'm a grandpa, I haven't got there yet. I've literally spent thousands of hours studying that budget. I know where the tweaks are. Right now, we're working on trying to cut in half the $120,000 per year we spend on street lighting. You'll see that yesterday XL Energy talked about raising the rates for electricity. So there's things like this that we can do, and I'm very happy to be here, so I would appreciate your vote and your consideration on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And Barb Richardson.
Hi. I'm not a politician. I'm sorry. I'm a regular resident. My husband and I have lived in Robbinsdale for 35 years in the house that he grew up in. I have been a business owner here in Robbinsdale for the past, going on 14 years. But all told, my experience has been in retail. We had retail businesses. We had pet stores back in the day when we were first married. Hospitality industry was what we did here in Robbinsdale for 13 years. I was in the, I'm in the ministry. I've been in the ministry for 7 years. And by that I mean it's marketplace ministry. It's just something that complements being in business. I would say for the past 13, 14 years, while we were running Coffee on Broadway, although I wasn't a founding member of the Hearts of Robbinsdale, I heard the hearts of Robbinsdale every day. I know what's on their mind. I know how they feel about their city. I know that they love their city. I also know that they don't always feel comfortable going to the city with their concerns. Little intimidation, many other things that surfaced at that time when we were talking about it. That's probably the biggest reason why I've chose to run. I've really wanted to do this for a very long time. And I told that to Bill, but I liked him so much, I never did it. But right now, sorry. Anyway, I very much have wanted to do this for a long time. You don't know, you have no idea. And I really would appreciate the opportunity because my focus is on the people and the residents and their concerns and what makes their life in Robbinsdale the most enjoyable. We can have one of the most coveted neighborhoods in the city. You know, we have a good start. And I think that propelling that in the same fashion, with the same momentum and the same enthusiasm, we will definitely be one of the top. So, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Barb. And again, I'll ask the candidates to speak up so the folks in the back of the room can hear us. They're sending us signals from back there, so we'll do our best. Just moving ahead, one question, again, looking at the time. Most of you addressed what makes you qualified as a candidate in your opening statements, and I guess you might say something at the closing statement. So we'll move ahead to the next question. What steps would you take or support to promote continued community and business development in Robbinsdale? And we'll start with George Selman.
Well, I'm going to start with business before I go on to community. The business community in Robbinsdale is vibrant and alive, but it's a critical juncture. We have a big opening coming to our downtown with TCF's condensing their operations and moving into just their drive-up. That creates a big gap, and that's a large percentage of our downtown. And it's a critical juncture to be able to attract businesses. I worked hard even before I was on the city council trying to attract businesses and have for many years and continue to while on the city council. You know, I met with Trader Joe's. There's a lot of people think the city council or city policy prevented Trader Joe's from coming here. That couldn't be more inaccurate. Trader Joe's gave us very serious consideration in meetings that lasted, the 2 meetings that I had with their developer lasted for nearly 4 hours, and they gave us plenty of time to make our pitch, and they really liked what they heard. But at the end of the day, the demographics for Robbinsdale and the surrounding communities didn't meet the business model for Trader Joe's. That's not a bad thing. It just didn't work out. You know, and while on the council, I approached Surly Brewing about making Robbinsdale their new home. Again, they had issues not related to Robbinsdale. They loved the idea. They didn't. Their big concern was not having Minneapolis water and the impact it might have on their recipes. You know, so but it's approaching these organizations and trying is really important. And who better to attract business than a local business owner and a 20-year member of the Chamber of Commerce? I think it's 20 years or real close to it. When it comes to community, I think my service record really shows my ability to attract and support and inspire our community in little ways and in big ways. If it's anything from, you know, spending 3 years as the president of Whiz Bang Days or meeting the Girl Scouts a few weekends ago to help over 300 of them rake leaves in city parks and give a presentation about why their efforts were so important to help protect our water quality. You know, these are community activities that are critical, and I think the mayor needs to lead by example in these areas.
Thank you. Bill Blonigan.
Well, I would, Dave, try to continue what we are doing to some extent and try some new things to another extent. We've got Neighborhood Watch. We have things that you are supporting, downtown meet and greet. We tried Oktoberfest. We have the Heart of Robbinsdale Community Foundation's activities. I'm on the board there and excited about that. We have an event coming up in February. And so for community development, those are the types of things that I would try to continue. As far as downtown and business development, on my brochure, I've laid out 10 different buildings that we have developed in the last number of years. Oftentimes, I was the deciding vote. We can't do everything. We have to do things that make financial sense. Unlike some other cities, we've not been caught in a blunder situation where we do something that didn't work. Everything we've done has flowed cash-wise and worked, and I would try to continue that type of a policy.
Thank you, Bill. Barb Richardson.
Well, having been a member of the retail downtown business for going on 14 years, I understand how important it is for the vitality of a city to have, you know, attractive, fun, innovative, new, and a variety of businesses. I'm really proud of what we have right now. I'm really proud of that, and I would hope that it would just continue to get better and better. What was I going to say? Many people, over the period of years that I was in the coffee industry, many people sought advice on starting a business and the proper procedure and that type of thing. I had oftentimes many people were sent to me by friends and others on advice, for advice on this. And I was just happy as can be to sit them down and walk them through the various steps that I, from experience, went through to make sure they made no mistakes, they did it in the right order, and they crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's so that they, you know, would not have some of the pitfalls that often are there confronting prospective and promising businesses who decide they're going to start out on their own. They're just going to go plow through the system and do what they want and end up with trouble. So I've really loved sharing my experience with prospective business people. And if I am elected on the council, I would love to be a business liaison so that anyone who was looking to start a business, if they needed a first contact, I could share my experience first and then help to guide them so they didn't make the wrong moves before they got there. Okie dokie. But I think that we have a very attractive city, one that population has virtually turned over age-wise, and that's really exciting. So I think we have an opportunity to really provide our city with a real vibrant downtown. It should be very fun, a destination, even if it's for us and we can walk there. It draws people from everywhere. But anyway, I'm really proud of our downtown, and it's been really fun. And even though I've switched businesses from coffee to antiques, got to have a little fun. I'm very interested in helping all businesses succeed, the ones we have, and also, you know, mentoring or even just being of assistance to anybody who would be interested in coming. You know, I can share my
Thank you, Barb. I'm
experience.
just going to hop
Sorry.
in, so that's all right. So we can get to just a couple more questions. Regan, your answer to this question?
Thank you, Dave. Alluding to something Barb mentioned about the demographics, they've changed drastically in Robbinsdale in the last 10 years. In 2000, 65 and up was the largest demographic. In 2010, 24 to 35 is now the largest demographic in Robbinsdale. It's a good thing for Robbinsdale. It is exciting, Barb. But that means changing needs. And I don't want to, as mayor, do this as an individual. I want to do this as a community effort. And some of the things that I'd like to see done have to do with promoting Robbinsdale and doing it more rigorously. I recently met with the Minneapolis Realtors Association, and the one thing that they said about Robbinsdale was there's low visibility. And as mayor, I'd like to promote Robbinsdale and do that through the chamber and do that through local business owners and even those individuals that live in Robbinsdale that own businesses but don't operate in Robbinsdale. We need to use them as a resource too. And I think it'd be a great idea in conjunction with the chamber is to also create a Robbinsdale networking group. In addition, with the Minneapolis Realtors Association, as far as low visibility, what I like to do is invite commercial realtors and residential realtors to an open house and do it maybe on an annual basis. And I think increasing the visibility for businesses and residents is going to have a big impact. And it's not only going to affect us as a community, but also, you know, source of revenue for the city of Robbinsdale, increasing that commercial tax base. That's, you know, as far as businesses, I think those are a couple of different ways we can improve that in Robbinsdale. As far as the community, I moved back to Robbinsdale because of how much this city had an impact on my adult life, and I want my kids to have that same experience as they grew up here. And I couldn't be happier having moved back. And being a part of the Heart of Robbinsdale Community Foundation and founding that is one big step in creating a better community. But also the Birdtown Club, which many of you are a part of and may not know about. It's this grassroots effort. And it's what makes Robbinsdale great, is its residents. And I certainly want to foster that as mayor of Robbinsdale.
Thank you. And again, for the audience here, we're bumping up against our time that we promised we would hopefully be done. If you need to leave, we certainly understand, but if you'd like to stay, we encourage that. We have 2 more questions, and then we'll have the closing statements. The next question, and we'll start with Bill Blonigan, is what is your opinion regarding the light rail discussion as it potentially impacts Robbinsdale?
Well, I'm fully in support of light rail. We have a situation now where there's light rail going from Minneapolis to St. Paul down the Central Corridor. Soon there's the Hiawatha Line, there's the Southwest Corridor, and all of this is being paid for by you right now through your tax dollars. So even if I was against the concept of it, I would still probably be for it in our situation, because why would I want to pay all of those taxes through the state of Minnesota and through the federal government, where we get 78 cents back for every dollar we put in Minnesota? Why would I want to do that and not get the benefits? However, if I was the king, which I'm not, I would still think that this is a great idea. We live in an earth, or on an earth, that has limited resources. This is a very efficient and non-polluting way to move people. You could argue about whether or not it pays for itself. I don't think my automobile gas that I pay for at $3.40 a gallon or whatever it is now pays for itself when you consider the military involvement we need in order to subsidize that gas. So I'm fully supportive of it. And then finally, any great city in the world that I've gone to has always had a light rail or multimodal type of component. You go to Australia, to Sydney, Australia, you see the activity that just generates from multimodal ways to transport yourself. We have a perfect spot in downtown Robbinsdale to do that. Values of our property will go up when this happens.
Thank you, Bill. Barb Richardson?
Well, I am a real proponent of public transportation because I took the bus downtown when I worked at Dayton's for 14 years. It was very convenient, cost effective. With regard to light rail, I guess I'm not very excited about the current proposed route with the Burlington lines across the street from my house and the park between my house and the lines. I don't think it's an ideal spot. It really goes right through the neighborhood. And unless there could be a way to conceal that so it was not disruptive to the neighbors and the yards and the kids at the park, I love public transportation, like I said, and light rail doesn't, that's fine. I like it. I just don't think the proposed route is a good one. It's too disruptive. I know that there are important places that need to be serviced, like North Memorial, and connecting to the other corridors. That's very important. But what's the cost to the people? What's the cost to the residents? All of a sudden, maybe their property values go up, but what's the quality of life? You know, that's very disruptive. I see the kids at the park waving at the engineer when he drives by once a day, and that's fun. But this is going to go by many more times than that, and I don't think it's going to be a real attractive situation on the proposed route for anybody living in its direct vicinity.
Thank you, Barb. Regan Murphy.
Thank you, Dave. Light rail, whether you like it or not, I have a feeling that light rail is coming. And so as mayor, what I'd really like to focus on is minimizing the negative impact and maximizing the positive impact. Going door to door, I'd say all the residents I spoke to are excited about an additional mode of transportation and the potential for transit-oriented redevelopment, which again is potential. So, you know, as mayor, I think it's important for me to have the community involved throughout the entire process. And that's everything from really getting a grasp of what light rail is going to look like. Because like Barb said, we're going to have a train coming through every 7 to 10 minutes potentially through some major intersections that are used by pedestrians, kids walking to school, seniors walking to church, and just walking downtown. So we really need to consider what it's going to look like going through Robbinsdale. At the same time, I think getting residents to visualize what light rail is going to look like, I would suggest taking bus trips down to the Hiawatha line and really trying to visualize what it looks like a train going through a neighborhood. So I just want to make sure we look at the safety components, the environmental impacts, and as mayor, I really encourage residents to be involved in that process. But I do think it's going to be a positive thing for Robbinsdale, but it's up to us to make sure it is a positive thing for businesses and residents.
Thank you. George Selman.
Many of you may know I do support the light rail project, and I support it enthusiastically. Many years ago, Commissioner Mike Opat asked me to serve on the Community Advisory Committee for the redevelopment of the Bottineau Boulevard corridor. Light rail was probably not even on the radar at that point. It was mostly bus rapid transit. The Hiawatha line was built. It was enormously successful. It continues to be virtually tripling its ridership projections over where they were projected to be at this time. And that's just one leg on what will eventually be a complete transportation system that Bill described earlier. The next step for Robbinsdale is the environmental impact studies and the impact that Barb and Regan mentioned on the neighborhoods. I took a proactive approach to this by working with the Hennepin County Rail Authority and having citizens that own property adjacent to the rail corridor's property have an opportunity to go on the Hiawatha line and have a guided tour and see how it impacts it and see how it impacts the people that live the closest to it. So we took several trips. We met at Hubbard. We bussed down to the Target Field where we got on the train. We rode down to the VA all along the way, talking about the opportunity and pointing out features of transit-oriented development that might be a good fit for Robbinsdale and the overall corridor in the future. And we got off at the VA and we walked back north to the, I think it's 50th Street stop. And along the way in that section, the train actually runs on a residential street with housing much closer to the sidewalk and curb than most of the homes in Robbinsdale. And the citizens that came on these tours were surprised at how quiet it is. Unless it's at a crossing, it's very quiet. You hardly hear it coming except for a rush of air, and it's there and gone in a matter of 10, 12 seconds. At the crossing sections, there's a legitimate concern. We need to be safe. We need to make sure that there's efforts to minimize the impact. I've asked that they evaluate the possibility of even in Robbinsdale, when we're not at grade, to lower it down into the ground just a little bit to reduce that vertical footprint and to help contain some sound in an effort to help mitigate some of the impact on the surrounding properties. But at the end of the day, as mayor and as a city council person, I feel it's our responsibility to do what's best for the city as a whole and what the citizens of Robbinsdale tell us. And that is overwhelmingly, they want to have this opportunity to have light rail in this community and up and down this corridor because it reduces the impact on the environment. It reduces our needs for expanding our highways. It reduces wear and tear on our existing highways. It makes for better transportation of goods and services throughout the metropolitan area. And later this month, I'm going to be meeting with the Golden Valley City Council in a work session format. And actually, unfortunately, for I think the first time, missing one of my City Council or EDA meetings because it's that important to the future of Robbinsdale, I feel, to have a super pedestrian-friendly downtown, where Hubbard almost becomes a second Main Street. And for us, it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Thank you, George. Final question, and I'm going to ask the impossible request again. 1 minute or less, if you would. There are two questions that came from the audience related to the financial condition of Robbinsdale and LGA cuts. So if you could address what have you done or would you do to keep the city's financial condition manageable, and how would you deal with LGA cuts? We'll start with Barb Richardson.
Being new to city government, all I can do is relate to how finances work, whether you're in business for yourself, whether you're a homemaker or a city, or for that matter, a United States. Finances have to be creatively managed. When there's only so much to go around, you need to be creative. It is a difficult situation in that we don't want higher taxes, we don't want increased utilities. None of us wants that because it seems like everything else is going down. But having the experience in business that I've had over the years, I know that when I'm exposed or allowed to be part of the financial decision making for the city, I would use all of my creativity and all of my experience in the 35 years that I have been in business to make sure that every dollar was spent in the very best way possible with the residents in mind.
Thank you, Barb. Regan Murphy.
Thank you, Dave. Since 2002, local government aid to Robbinsdale has decreased nearly 50%. And LGA and other sources of state funding are the second source of revenue for the city next to property taxes. So the question is, how are we going to address that? Well, there's two ways you can address that. You can continue cutting or look at increasing revenue. And that's part of why I want to be mayor, is as we do look to make more cuts, and the city council has actually done a fantastic job under the leadership of the current mayor, Mike Holtz, with holding property taxes in line and still trying to maintain some of the services that we have come to expect here in Robbinsdale. And it's going to be important that we continue to do that, that we have a budget that is manageable, but we need to create some new revenue sources. And I think, promoting Robbinsdale to new businesses and increasing the commercial tax base is going to be a big proponent or a big part of that. But we also need to get creative and look at other sources of revenue. And I think we just need to look at other cities and see what they're doing. And, there's only so many fees that you can tack on to, the utilities, and it's time to start looking at different revenues. So that would be my
Thank you. George Selman.
Local government aid has been a hot potato, as has been described already, for quite some time, and it's a moving target. It's hard to imagine your family budget. At the end of the year, you're told you're going to have X amount come in, and you really don't know if it's coming. But there's been an unusually, I don't want to say good, but a benefit that's resulted from what we've experienced. The Robbinsdale city budget is a lean, mean operation because it had to be, because we didn't know that a big percentage of our budget was going to come in or not. So we took before I was on the council and since I've been on the council, we've taken a real hard look at our wants versus our needs. And there's a lot of things we want to do, but there's some things that we need. And we've protected those needs. In this year's budget, we actually, even with LGA the way it's been, we've reduced our operating budget slightly and at the same time added a full-time police officer. I'm extremely proud of that because crime is one of the things that people tell me is foremost on their mind, keeping it down. And, of course, I'm sure we all agree on that. the governor has the commissioner of revenue going around the state conducting listening sessions, and I took the time out of my campaign schedule a couple weeks back to go and go to this listening session at the City of Crystal Community Center, and to listen to the governor's plan for restructuring our entire tax base. And they did an excellent job at explaining it. I believe there's links from the city's website and my campaign website to kind of show the PowerPoint presentation. I believe there's also some videos available. But I encourage you to go see those, because I made it clear to the governor's commissioner of revenue, so the person that has the governor's ear on this topic, that local government aid, Robbinsdale's done all it can do. It's time for the next levels of government to become lean and mean the way Robbinsdale and Crystal and New Hope and our neighbors have. It's because they need to create a situation, as was talked about in the earlier, with the earlier group from the state, that it does need tweaking, but it needs to be reliable so cities can strategically plan and do the best they can with the money that's available, instead of always being on your heels hoping you get what you can.
Thank you, George. Bill Blonigan.
When I first came to the council, we had a 4% reserve at the end of the year. Now we're approaching 60%. Having a savings account is very important for managing these types of things. We did that through windfalls and not spending when we had an extra bit of a windfall. I would have a contingency plan list of what we're going to cut, just like we do now. That's what we do. There's many different things that we can do besides that. Energy efficiency, Robin Court, which the EDA owns, is halfway through being paid off. I'd like to keep that when it's paid off and then use the income from that forevermore to help the city. We are involved in the League of Minnesota Cities and the National League of Cities. We get a lot of tips from copying what other people do. I'm a great copier. There's a lot more, but in my 1,000 years of life, I have learned that this is a minute, so I'm done.
Thank you, Bill. At this point, we will have the closing statements. Again, there is campaign literature for a number of the candidates on the back table. We thank you for coming and spending this important time with us today. Again, if you have additional questions, unfortunately, we're limited on our time, but certainly the candidates might sit around for a few minutes and answer some questions, or you can certainly contact them. Beginning with our closing statements, candidates, as if the screen door is closing on the House and you're just saying your final few words, we'll start with Barb Richardson.
Well, like I said in the very beginning, I've really been looking forward to this opportunity for many years. And as a citizen and a business owner in Robbinsdale, I truly have the best interests of all at heart. Coincidentally, Ward 1 does contain our business district, so that's especially dear. And I will do everything I can to promote the business, future business, and the welfare and longevity of Robbinsdale residents to enjoy one of the best neighborhoods. Means a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Barb. Bill Blonigan.
Thank you for having me here today. The city of Robbinsdale has a vibrancy and a mojo downtown right now, and it's not an accident. We have relatively good tax rates. That's not an accident. We work hard for you. We are probably the most open governmental organization I've seen. You can come to the council meetings at any time, talk to us. We constantly and repetitively violate our rules about how long you can speak, and we let you talk to us as long as you can or want to. And we often, unlike other bodies, answer your questions that night if we can. And we either get back to you or assign a staff member to get back to you. So I would like to continue to be an open organization. I'd like to continue our good financial management and our AA bond rating, which got us a 1.488% bond recently. And if you'll help get me reelected, I will promise to work hard for you and love this city as I have for all of the years I've lived here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. George Selman.
Well, thanks to the American Legion for hosting this today and the Chamber as well. I want to first of all thank my family and friends and supporters for all the help through the campaign this last 4 months. It's been Regan and I were talking earlier, this is going to be the longest week of the year for the two of us. We're both ready for the election day. And I want to thank the folks that were kind enough to endorse me. Senator Rest, Representative Carlson, Barb Johnson from the Minneapolis City Council, Hennepin County Commissioner Mike Opat. But most importantly, I want to thank exiting Mayor Holtz. Your guidance and leadership over the past 6 years on the council and probably 20 years before that I've known you have really shown me what I feel is the proper way to do the job. And I appreciate the guidance, and I appreciate your offer to be available beyond your term as mayor to help continue to guide Robbinsdale down the successful path that it's enjoyed. And I want to thank all the people that have taken time in my door knocking since July to sit out on their front porch, invite me in to sit at their kitchen table, and tell me what's important to them. And I'm really reminded that that's what guides my voting, is what the people of Robbinsdale tell me they want, not what I personally want or what the people that always have my ear tell me they want. I really like having that broad-based direction given to me so I can lead Robbinsdale down the path that everybody wants. Thank you. I hope I've earned your vote for November 6th.
Thank you. And Regan Murphy.
Thank you again, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for taking time every day to come here. It's a joy to see you all. Thank you, Bill and George, for your dedication on City Council. Barb, thank you as a business owner and a wonderful neighbor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 16 years, we'll be voting and electing a new mayor here in Robbinsdale. A lot of things have changed, and as we prepare for the future, it's time that we look to the next generation of engaged Robbinsdale residents to lead this city and help aggressively pursue the challenges relating to economic growth and also safety. I will work diligently with our city manager, Marcia Glick, as well as the city council to help manage the revenue and the growth that's needed to sustain all the things that the city provides and that we expect. Through the course of my years as a public servant and also a leader, I've had the experience to become a better listener, better problem solver, and really know how to follow through on my commitments. And my commitment to all the Robbinsdale residents, and if you own a business in Robbinsdale, is to make this a better place to live. That is my motivation, and I ask for your commitment on November 6th to vote Regan Murphy for mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Join me in thanking our city candidates for being with us. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today on behalf of the Chamber. It is an important time for the city of Robbinsdale. We thank you for taking some extra time with us today as this ran a little bit longer, and please do vote on November 6th. Thanks for joining us.